Shalom, 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 Israel, giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashim El Shabashim Chakadash, the honors to the apostles and elders of James Ruel. Salutation to y'all, give my dear pushing his word in truth and sincerity, risking your freedom in your life to do so more so now than ever before, but we are close to the end. It's going to be a quick video, man. This is a good video to watch from Secular Talk. I don't subscribe to him, but you can go ahead and subscribe to him. Insightful information. And it's talking about the topic of the conversation: the dollar collapses as countries mass dump U.S. treasuries, right? Now, we know, according to Revelation, the 18th chapter, that all nations were made rich by the delicacies of Babylon the Great, which we know as America, because all nations trade with America and became rich, all right? But it also propelled America to the height that it's been for the past 60, 70 years, since the 1950s, all right? A couple years after World War II, propelled America to the top dog, you know what I'm saying? The whore that sitteth on the beast, which is NATO and the EU, the 7 heads and 10 horns, which represents different countries within the empire. But America sits at the head of that, and all nations follow her and her customs. Okay, America's equated to a beautiful whore, all right, a beautiful prostitute that sleeps with many countries and burns them with philosophy. When I say burn them, like plague them or destroy their way of life through feminism and all types of other things that the American society promotes. These nations take hold of it and go crazy, lose their way of life. So I'm going to play a little bit of this video. Ain't going to stay too long, and get a few scriptures.
All right, guys, so it's the beginning of the end. I think it's safe to say it's the beginning of the end. So first, let me show you this. Breaking, the average price of...
Hold on, before we get there, let's Jeremiah 28, verse 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied against many countries and great kingdoms, and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. So don't find it strange that in 2026, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but in 2026, we're doing the same thing that prophets thousands of years ago did, all right? They prophesied just like we're prophesying, but the only difference is it was a different kingdom. But the prophets prophesied the same thing, which is the kingdom is going to fall, it's going to be evil, it's going to be pestilences, all right? The Lord is judging this place. That's what the prophets of old prophesied during that time, and it's the same, it's no different in this time. It's the same thing. The prophets are always with the same message. Doom is coming. A fall of an empire is coming. And we're saying the same thing. The fall of Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America, and NATO and the EU is coming. And the resurrection, the restoration of Israel is on its way. All right, which is the kingdom is going to be put in the hands of the Israelites, which is the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, according to the Bible, to rule the world.
Ground beef in the U.S. is now up to a record $6.67 per pound. Prices have surged 72% since January 2020, when they stood at $3.88 per pound. Over the same period, chicken breast prices have risen 36%. Furthermore, coffee prices have surged 52% since January 2020, all while the other food category, which includes sugar, sweets, fats, oils, snacks, and prepared meals, has soared 31% over the same period. Food inflation remains far too high. So here's what the chart looks like, yo.
Food inflation far too high, man. The scriptures speak about that. Revelation 6, verse 6 in the GNT. And I heard what sounded like a voice coming from amongst the 4 living creatures, which said, end quote, a quart of wheat for a day's wage. What does that mean? It's going to be hyperinflation. Now, if you look at it, the average person makes roughly between $50,000 and $60,000 a year. If you divide it up between 52 weeks, divide that by 40 hours in that week, is roughly about 200 to 225 a day. So it says a week for a day's wage is going to cost, and it's going to be a lot more, but on average, it's going to cost a day's wage, which the average wage is $200 a day. It's going to cost $200 a day's wage for a quart of wheat. I mean, inflation is going to go super through the roof. Right now, it's bad, but it's going to be hyperinflation. And 3 quarts of barley for a day's wage. All right, but do not damage the olive trees and the vineyards. All right, so that scripture, Revelation 6:6, is speaking about hyperinflation. That's coming. All right, the devaluation of the dollar is going to cause hyperinflation, not only in America, but in London, EU, NATO countries. All right, NATO and European Union countries.
This is political death for the regime. This is people fucking hating you and being furious. And this is a 35% approval rating. This is what you're looking at. This right here says it all. 35% approval rating. But it gets worse. Because not only is inflation going up and unemployment going up, which we talk about on a regular basis on this show, but we also have now stuff like this happening. Ready? Europe may begin selling U.S. assets in response to a new conflict with the U.S., a move that could trigger a dollar collapse, Bloomberg reports. Deutsche Bank analysts warn Washington's key vulnerability is living off global financing, and Europe may decide it no longer wants to bankroll the U.S. Okay. Breaking. The Danish pension fund announced they will sell all U.S. treasuries by month end, citing rising credit risk under Trump. The fund's CIO says U.S. finances are no longer sustainable due to weak fiscal discipline, a softer dollar, and Trump's push for Greenland. In other words, fuck you, we don't like you, you're not good to your word, you're psychopaths, and you got $40 trillion in debt. We're no longer going to pick up the slack here for you. Sorry, we're going to dump U.S. treasuries, which would only lead to a further debt crisis here in the U.S. I don't know, maybe it wasn't a good idea to go around threatening to fucking steal Greenland. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe there were fucking real-world consequences to that. By the way, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was asked, hey, what are you doing to prepare for the retaliation from Europe over Trump's threats to Greenland? And he goes, they're not going to retaliate. Again, that's how stupid these people are.
And the scriptures say, look more stout than his fellows, man. The pride of Esau. Let's get that real quick. Obadiah, real quick. And we're going to close out very soon. It says, right, hold on. Right, Obadiah verse 7. All the men of that confederacy meaning, you know, who you team up with. Let's get it, federation, league, or alliance, all right? So all the men that you have allegiance with, you know, NATO, EU, have brought thee even to the border, meaning to go to war with you. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Right. So the same alliances and allegiance that you have with these nations, they're gonna turn their back on you. And you see that now with Trump trying to take Greenland. Is having these other nations like Turkey, France, a whole bunch of other NATO nations, you know, coming up against, you know, Babylon the Great, the whore that's sitting on the head, that the whore can't run the show anymore.
Guys. They are actually dumbasses. They are actually stupid. There is no smart person in control here. These idiots genuinely thought, oh, he's going to threaten to steal Greenland, and there's going to be no response from Europe. They're just going to be like, okay. No, they immediately do stuff like dump U.S. treasuries. Oh, my God. China is still dumping U.S. treasuries. China's holdings of U.S. government bonds dropped $6.1 billion in November to $682.6 billion, the lowest since September 2008. In the midst of the financial crisis, China has now sold $76.4 billion of treasuries since the start of 2025. Since the 2013 peak, the country's treasury holdings have fallen $634.1 billion, nearly half the total. Furthermore, there's growing evidence that we can't track China's U.S. treasury purchases through Belgium anymore. So again, this is a crisis here, what we're talking about. The U.S. dollar is now down over 10% since Trump became president. Over 10%. Now, by the way, the conspiracy brain of mine goes, what if he actually wants the dollar to collapse? Because then him and Peter Thiel and all of his billionaire asshole Epstein class buddies can go in and buy everything up on the cheap and make everybody a total slave peasant to themselves.
And we believe that, I don't know if it's going to play out exactly like that, but we know they're going to implement a new system, which is the MOTB, the RFID chip implant to put in people. All right. I hope this video doesn't get flagged for saying that. But anyways, we're going to end it here. Watch the full video, man. It tells you, filter, chew the meat, spit the bones, filter it through the scriptures, obviously, because, he's not a prophet. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. Look at the man's hair. But we know we are close to the end. This is the death of U.S. hegemony and Israel. The Lord will be coming back soon to rise Israel. So with that, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Shah. Shalom.